This is English shorthand dictation number 153 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. My dear friends, you want me to talk to you in English. I shall obey your command, but take it from me that it will not be long before you yourselves will have to speak in our national language. If you do not do that, you will drag the country backward. We have to exert our maximum effort to go forward. Unless you do that, I am afraid you will suffer. After a prolonged struggle, the country has secured freedom, but it is not freedom of the kind that we wanted. It is not freedom of the kind that the deliverer of the country expected, and to our shame we have to confess that by our folly we have lost him. Now after his going, we must do penance and try our best to deserve the freedom that he obtained for us. Free India is only a child of a year and a half. It has yet to learn to walk. It has to grow to be strong, and its future depends upon how we build today. Therefore, we have to nurse it carefully. We have to feed, clothe and strengthen it properly. It is our good fortune that we have here a rare opportunity to build our own country in our own fashion. History will record what we are doing today. The first requisite for building a strong India is unity and peace. If there is no unity in the country, it is bound to go down. Therefore, we must first of all adjust our differences and behave in such a manner that there is complete harmony and peace in the country. You cannot expect the government continuously to maintain peace by force. It would be an evil day when in this country the government has to use repressive measures permanently. Today we are passing through a period of crisis, and our young men have in their impatience not realized that the freedom which has been obtained with great difficulty is likely to be lost or likely to give no benefit if we do not appreciate that our present duty is to unite and consolidate our freedom. We lost our leader because we forgot the very first lesson. If we do not realize even after his going that in unity lies our strength, then greater misfortune will befall us. For unity, we must forget differences of caste and creed and remember that we are all Indians and all equal. There can be no distinction between man and man in a free country. All must have equal opportunities, equal rights, and equal responsibilities. This is difficult for achievement in practice, but we must continuously strive towards that end. There is one other thing that we have to do to maintain peace and order in this country for a few years at least, till we are able to stand on our own legs. We must forget that we can every now and then threaten the government. We cannot function if the government is to be challenged day after day by groups of people who want to have their own way. What they want may be very good according to their own honest thinking, but Mahatma Gandhi has put before us the ideal of obtaining what we want by peaceful methods and through truth and non-violence. If people begin to threaten and challenge government's authority and try to overthrow it to gain their objectives by force, the latter would not be able to do anything constructive. Forces are existing in this country which would create chaos and disorder, which would weaken the country instead of strengthening it. We in the government have been dealing with the RSS movement. They want that Hindu Rajya or Hindu culture should be imposed by force. No government can tolerate this. There are almost as many Muslims in this country as in the part that has been partitioned away. We are not going to drive them away. It would be an evil day if we started that game, in spite of partition and whatever happens. We must understand that they are going to stay here, and it is our obligation and our responsibility to make them feel that this is their country. On the other hand, it is their responsibility to discharge their duties as citizens of this country. We must all understand that partition is behind us. It has to come to stay. I honestly believe that it is good for both the new nations to be rid of a perpetual source of trouble and quarrels. In 200 years of slavery, the administration created a situation in which we began to drift away from each other. It is good that we have agreed to partition in spite of all its evils. I have never repented my agreeing to partition. From the experience of 1 year of joint administration, when we have not agreed to partition, I know we would have erred grievously and repented if we had not agreed. It would have resulted in a partition not into two countries but into several bits. Therefore, whatever some people may say, I am convinced that our having agreed to partition has been for the good of the country. The days of the Indian civil service of the old style are going to be over, and in its place we have brought into being the All India Administrative Service. The change is both significant and epoch-making. In the first place, it is an unmistakable symptom of the transfer of power which is taking place from foreign to Indian hands. Secondly, it marks the inauguration of the All India Service, officered entirely by Indians and subjected completely to Indian control. Thirdly, the service will now be free to adopt its true role of national service without being restricted by traditions and habits of the past. I have dwelt on the significance of this change mainly in order to bring home to the minds of the probationers particularly and to the outside world incidentally that the days when the service could be masters are over and the officers must be guided by a real spirit of service in their day-to-day administration, for in no other manner can they fit the scheme of things. Perhaps you are aware of a saying which is current in India regarding the past civil service, which is known as the Indian civil service, that it is neither Indian nor civil nor infused with any spirit of service. In a true sense, it is not Indian because the Indian civil servants are mostly anglicized. Their training was in foreign lands and they had to serve foreign masters. Therefore, in effect, the whole service was known not to be Indian, nor to be civil, nor infused with any spirit of service, and yet it was known as the Indian civil service. The thing is now going to change. To some extent, all of you who are undergoing instruction in this school are more fortunate than your predecessors. Your predecessors had to serve as agents of an alien rule, and even against their better judgment had sometimes to execute the bidding of their foreign employers. You will have the satisfaction that whatever you do, you will be doing under the orders of your own fellow Indians. Your predecessors were brought up in the traditions in which they felt out of touch and kept themselves aloof from the common run of the people. It will be your bounden duty to treat the common men in India as your own and to feel yourself to be one of them and amongst them, and you will have to learn not to despise or disregard them. In other words, you will have to adopt yourselves to democratic ways of administration. Almost all of you have had service in the army, and therefore it should not be necessary for me to stress the need of discipline in your ranks in whatever capacity you may be serving India. Along with discipline, you must cultivate the group spirit, without which a service as such has little meaning. You should regard it as a proud privilege to belong to the service and to uphold throughout your service its dignity, integrity, and incorruptibility. You would do well to examine the conditions which prevail in India today. The real task in India has just begun. For the time being, there is a transition to the highest stature of independence. The difficulties of a transitional period have therefore been superimposed over those of the post-war problems. In these circumstances, we have a right to expect the best out of every civil servant in India, in whatever position of responsibility he or she may be. It is not for you to approach your task from a purely mercenary angle or entirely from self-interest, howsoever enlightened it may be. Your foremost consideration must be how best to contribute to the well-being of India as a whole. You can trust the government to keep you content and happy so that you may give your best, but it would be unworthy of you to make that a condition of service. After all, your ministers fully appreciate and realize the importance of your work. They may sometimes sometimes appear to you as lacking in sympathy, but I do not think there is anyone in the highest responsible positions in India who does not feel that he must take the service with him if he has to make the maximum possible contribution to the well-being of India.